Good evening, folks, and welcome to the program. Brian here with you on the 30th of April, 2021. Tonight, the war on margarine escalates. What will we do? Sit back, relax, fire up a colortini, and watch the pictures as they fly through the air. The Butter Battle Book by Dr. Seuss. On the last day of summer, 10 hours before fall, my grandfather took me out to the wall. For a while he stood silent, then finally he said, with a very sad shake of his very old head, "As you know, on this side of the wall we are Ukes. On the far other side of this wall live the Zooks." Then my grandfather said, "It's high time that you knew of the terribly horrible thing that Zooks do. In every Zook house and in every Zook town, every Zook eats his bread with the butter side down." "But we Ukes, as you know, when we breakfast or sup, spread our bread," Grandpa said, "with the butter side up." "That's right, honest way." Grandpa gritted his teeth. "So you can't trust a Zook who spreads bread underneath. Every Zook must be watched, he has kinks in his soul. That's why as a youth I made watching my goal. Watching Zooks for the Zooks, watching Border Patrol." In those days, of course, the wall wasn't so high, and I could look any Zook square in the eye. If he dared to come close, I could give him a twitch with my tough, tufted, prickly snickberry switch. For a while that worked fine, all the Zooks stayed away, and our country was safe. Then one terrible day, a very rude Zook by the name of Van Itch snuck up and slingshotted my snickberry switch. With my broken off switch, with my head hung in shame, to the chief Ukaroo in great sorrow I came. But our leader just smiled. He said, "You're not to blame, and those Zooks will be sorry they started this game. We'll dress you up right in a fancier suit. We'll give you fancier slingshot to shoot." And he ordered the boys in the back room to figure how to build me some sort of triple sling jigger. With my triple sling jigger, I sure felt much bigger. I marched to the wall with great vim and great vigor, right up to Van Itch with my hand on the trigger. "I'll have no more nonsense," I said with a frown, "from Zooks who eat bread with the butter side down." Van Itch looked quite sickly. He ran off quite quickly. I'm unhappy to say he came back the next day in a spiffy new suit with a big new machine, and he snarled as he said, looking frightfully mean, "You may fling those hard rocks with your triple sling jigger, but I also now have my hand on the trigger. My wonderful weapon, the jigger rock snatch'em, will fling 'em right back just quick as we catch 'em. We'll have no more nonsense, we'll take no more gup from you Ukes who eat bread with the butter side up." "I have failed, sir," I sobbed as I made my report to the chief Ukaroo in the headquarters fort. He just laughed. "You've done nothing at all of the sort. Our slingshots have failed, that was old-fashioned stuff. Slingshots, dear boy, are not modern enough. All we need is some newfangled kind of gun. My boys in the back room have already begun to think of a walloping whiz-zinger one. My bright boys are thinking, they're on the right track. They'll think one up quick and we'll send you right back." They thought up a great one, they certainly did. They thought up a gun called Kickapoo Kid, which they loaded with powerful poo-a-doo powder and ants, eggs, and bees' legs and dried fried clam chowder. And they carefully trained a real smart dog named Daniel to serve as our country's first gun-toting spaniel. Then Daniel, the Kickapoo Spaniel, and I marched back toward the wall with our heads held up high, while everyone cheered and their chests filled the sky. Fight, fight for the butter side up, do or die. Well, we didn't do and we didn't quite die, but we sure did get worsted, poor Daniel and I. Van Itch was there too, and he said, the old pig, the boys in my back room invented this rig, called the 8-nozzled elephant-toted boom blitz. It shoots high explosive sour cherry stone pits, and will put your dumb Kickapoo kid on the fritz. Poor Daniel and I, we were scared out of our wits. Once more by Van Itch I was bested and beat. Once again I limped home from the wall in defeat. I dragged and I sagged and my spirits were low, as low as I thought that they could ever go, when I heard a boom ba and a diddle-dee-diddle, and our butter-up band marched over the hill. The chief Yuckaroo had sent them to meet me, along with the right side up song girls to greet me. They sang, "Oh, be faithful, believe in thy butter," and they lifted my spirits right out of the gutter. "My boy," smiled the chief Yuckaroo, "we've just voted and made you a general. You've been promoted. Your pretty new uniform's ready, get in it. The big war is coming, you're going to begin it. And what's more, this time you are certain to win it. My boys in the back room have finally found how. Just wait till you see what they've puttered up now. In their great new machine, you'll fly over the wall and clobber those butter-down zooks, one and all." Those boys in the back room sure knew how to putter. They made me a thing called the utterly sputter, and I jumped aboard with my heart all aflutter and steered toward the land of the upside-down butter. This machine was so modern, so frightfully new, no one knew quite exactly just what it would do. But it had several faucets that sprinkled blue goo, which somehow would sprinkle the zooks as I flew, and gum up that upside-down butter they chew. I was racing pell-mell when I heard a voice yell, "If you sprinkle a zooks, you'll get sprinkled as well." Van Itch had a sputter exactly like mine, and he yelled, "My blue gooer is working just fine. And I'm here to say that if you can goo zooks, you better forget it, 'cause zooks can goo ukes." I flew right back home, and, as you may have guessed, I was downright despondent, disturbed, and depressed. And I saw, just as soon as I stepped back on land, so were all of the girls in the butter-up band. The chief drum majorette, Ms. Yuki Ann Sue, said, "That was a pretty sour flight that you flew, and the chief Yuckaroo has been looking for you." I raced to his office. The place was a sight. "Have no fear," said the chief. "Everything is all right. My bright backroom boys have been brighter than bright. They've thought up a gadget that's newer than new. It's filled with mysterious moo-lacka-moo, and can blow all those zooks clear to Salamagoo. They've invented the Bitsy Big Boy Boomeroo. You just run to the wall like a nice little man, drop this bomb on the zooks just as fast as you can. I have ordered all ukes to stay safe underground while the Bitsy Big Boy Boomeroo is around." As I raced for that wall with a bomb in my hand, I noticed that every last uke in our land was obeying our chief Yuckaroo's grim command. They were all bravely marching with banners aflutter down a hole for their country and right side up butter. That's when Grandfather found me. He grabbed me. He said, "You should be down that hole, and you're up here instead. But perhaps this is all for the better somehow. You will see me make history right here and right now." Grandpa leapt up that wall with a lopulous leap, and he cleared his hoarse throat with a bopulous beep. He screamed, "Here's the end of that terrible town, full of zooks who eat bread with the butter side down." And at that very instant, we heard a clup-clup of feet on the wall, and old Van Itch clupped up. The boys in his back room had made him one too. In his fist was another big boy bomberoo. "I'll blow you up," he yelled, "into pork and wee beans. I'll butter side up you to small smithereens." Grandpa, I shouted, be careful. Oh, gee, who's going to drop it? Will you or will he? Be patient, said Grandpa. We'll see. We will see. Written in the 1980s, just 6 years before his death, Dr. Seuss brings us his most direct social commentary. The Ukes and Zooks cannot agree on the seemingly most important task in life, how to butter your bread. Well, Ukes on top, Zooks on the bottom. They've already separated themselves by a dividing wall, but the disagreement becomes so heated, they decide it's time to up their game with military force. From slingshots to triple sling jiggers to utterly sputters, the arms race escalates. Finally, both sides end up with the ultimate weapon, the bitsy big boy bomberoo. It's capable of such destruction that the Ukes and Zooks alike are ordered to live underground. There's no happy or conclusive ending here. Two enemies are left on the wall, each with a weapon of mass destruction, fearfully wondering who will go first. A tense, apprehensive, ominous ending reflects the 1980s nuclear message of those opposing policies of mutually assured destruction. Seuss's depressing story is a tale of powers, principalities, and institutions that take on a life of their own, but it is also an educational tale of human nature. Sinful human nature views the world from a selfish perspective. We always hear children say, "It's not fair." Just like in a football game when the referee's call, favors one side over the other, or a journalist trying to tell both sides impartially gets accused of favoring one side. We adults, too, say, "It's not fair." In the case of children, "it's not fair" leads to getting even. This selfish perspective leads to giving back more than we got, and more from each side. Let's look at the Gospel of Matthew in the 5th chapter. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. The Old Testament advice serves to limit the escalation coming from selfish human behavior of wanting 2 teeth for every one. But this is not all. In this passage, Jesus offers even better advice. Do not resist an evildoer. It's an admonition to stop escalation. To halt violence, to follow a different path or different way, means we must address and overcome our selfish human nature. There needs to be an intentional effort to get outside ourselves, an effort to understand life and situations from someone else's perspective. Conflicts, whether they be worldwide, national, regional, or even familial, can be addressed by both sides listening and understanding each other. This doesn't mean the problem will be resolved. Two entities at odds may find, after understanding each other, that they may remain at odds, but they can just let each other be. Leave well enough alone. For the most part, though, understanding and considering others' perspectives can lead to resolution. Listening carefully with true effort demonstrates the essence of love. Do you have the patience and kindness to do this? Hitting back or understanding. One way has potential to resolve differences. The other leads us down a miserable, never-ending path of hitting harder and harder. That about does it for our story. Until next time, remember, every day is a blessed day. From the Covenant campus in downtown Butler, good night.